There comes a moment in love when silence feels louder than words. When someone who once held your heart suddenly pulls away, leaving behind unanswered messages and empty spaces. And you wonder, do they even miss me? Or am I forgotten? Here's the truth. Avoidants don't stop feeling, they run from what they feel. But the same psychology that makes them retreat can also make them long for you in ways they cannot escape. And today, I want to share with you 5 powerful triggers that can awaken that longing, that can make an avoidant miss you so deeply, they feel your absence like a shadow that never leaves. Trigger number 1, the power of space and mystery. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. When you're dealing with an avoidant, your instinct is to chase, to text, to call, to explain. But the more you run after them, the faster they withdraw. That's why space becomes your strongest ally. Space is not absence, it is presence magnified. It's the pause that makes them wonder, the silence that makes them restless. Just like when a song cuts off mid-chorus, the brain doesn't move on, it replays the missing notes. That's what your silence does. When you stop handing them constant access to your life, curiosity is born. They begin to ask, why isn't she reaching out? Has he moved on? Who are they without me? And mystery? Mystery is magnetic. It ignites imagination, and imagination is more powerful than reality. By stepping back, you don't push them away. You pull them into a place where missing you becomes inevitable. Trigger number 1, the power of space and mystery. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. When you're dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies, your natural instinct is to close the gap. You want to text them, call them, explain yourself, remind them of what you had. It's human. It's love reaching out, hoping to bridge the distance. But here's the paradox. The more you chase an avoidant, the faster they run. The more you try to force closeness, the more they withdraw into their shell. This is why space becomes your most powerful tool. Space is not absence. Space is presence magnified. It's the silence that forces their mind to wander, the pause that makes them curious about what's happening when you're no longer available. Think about it this way. When a song you love is suddenly turned off mid-chorus, your brain doesn't move on instantly. It replays the melody, hums the missing notes, searches for the rest of what it craves. That's what mystery does in the mind of an avoidant. It forces them to replay you, to wonder about you, to feel the absence of your presence like unfinished music. And the beauty of this is that mystery is magnetic. When you stop handing them access to every corner of your life, when your every move isn't posted, when your emotions aren't spilled out for them to consume, they begin to lean in. They start asking questions in the silence. Why hasn't she called? Who is he spending time with? Why does it feel different without her here? You see, avoidants fear losing themselves in closeness, but they also fear losing what makes them feel alive. And when you create space, when you step back with confidence instead of desperation, you awaken that second fear, the fear of losing you. This doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means becoming intentional with your presence. Let your absence become a reminder of your value. Let the quiet speak for you. Because when you no longer fight for their attention, they are left to wrestle with the most uncomfortable but inevitable question. Do I miss them? Mystery ignites imagination. And imagination is far more powerful than reality. In reality, they may resist closeness. But in imagination, in the space you create, they feel longing, desire, and curiosity grow stronger. Remember this. Being missed is not about what you give. It's about what you withhold with grace. It's about allowing the silence to echo louder than your words. So, let them feel the void. Let them wonder. Let them search for you in places you no longer occupy. Because it is in that space, in that mystery, that missing you becomes inevitable. Trigger number 2, self-growth and transformation. Nothing is more attractive than someone who glows without needing validation. There is something magnetic about transformation. Think about it. When you cross paths with someone you used to know, and suddenly they've changed, they've grown, they're glowing in a way you didn't expect, it makes you pause. It makes you notice. And sometimes, it makes you long for what you no longer have. For avoidants, this effect is amplified. They run from relationships because closeness feels threatening, because intimacy feels like a trap. But deep down, they are still watching. And that growth makes them miss the intimacy they once rejected. Understand this. When you grow, you shift from being their option to being their memory. And memories don't fade when the person in them evolves into someone even more radiant. They begin to realize that the version of you they left behind no longer exists, and what's left is someone stronger, more magnetic, more untouchable than ever. That is when missing you turns into a storm. Because they can't just come back to who you were, you've outgrown that version. If they want to be in your world again, they must face the reality of who you've become. And here lies the most beautiful paradox. You don't transform to make them miss you. You transform because you refuse to stay broken. But in that process, in that evolution, you create a force so undeniable that missing you becomes inevitable. So let your glow speak louder than your pain. Let your growth become the mirror that shows them what they lost. Because the strongest longing comes not from absence alone, but from realizing that while they stood still, you became unforgettable. Trigger number 3, emotional imprint through memories. They may forget what you said, they may forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Human beings are wired for memory, but not just facts or details, emotions. The mind may forget dates, conversations, and even the specifics of why a relationship ended, but the heart never forgets how someone made it feel. And for avoidants, this truth is even more profound. Here's why. Avoidants often detach in the present moment because closeness overwhelms them. They create distance to protect themselves. But distance does not erase the emotional imprint of the bond you shared. It only gives it room to echo louder in their subconscious. Think about the moments you shared with them. The laughter that erupted unexpectedly, the way your eyes met across a room and said everything without a single word, the way you listened to their silence as if it were music. These are not just moments, they are imprints. And imprints live deep inside the nervous system, resurfacing in quiet hours when the world is still and the heart has no distractions. Avoidance may appear cold, detached, or indifferent, but when the lights go out and the noise of life fades, their mind replays the reel of memories they cannot outrun. The way your touch felt on their skin, the sound of your voice calling their name, the warmth of your presence in the places where they now sit alone. And here's the secret, they don't miss your words. They miss your essence. They miss how you made them feel safe in a world where vulnerability terrified them. They miss the comfort of your energy, the way your love became a home they didn't know they needed until it was gone. This is why stepping back, creating space, and letting silence do its work is so powerful. It forces them to live without the very sensations they once took for granted. It allows the absence to trigger the memory. And memory is relentless. It shows up in dreams, in songs on the radio, in random strangers who remind them of your smile. Even science confirms this. Emotional memory is sticky. It clings. It outlasts logic, reason, and even time. That's why, years later, someone can still hear a song and instantly be transported to the arms of the person they once loved. So when you're wondering if an avoidant will ever miss you, the answer is yes, because the human heart is not wired to erase, it is wired to remember. And the more meaningful, the more emotional, the more intimate the connection was, the deeper that imprint becomes. You don't need to remind them of the memories. You don't need to send them a photo or a message. The imprint does the work for you. All you have to do is live, grow, and let time be the amplifier. Because the memories they carry of you are not going anywhere. And when they sit in their silence, when the noise fades and the walls they built begin to feel like a prison, those memories will return like a tide they cannot control. And in that tide, missing you becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. Trigger number 4, scarcity and value. What is rare is desired. What is scarce is missed. Human beings are wired to crave what feels rare, to chase what feels valuable, and to long for what is no longer easily available. This is not just psychology, it's primal instinct. And for avoidants, who often run from closeness, this principle is a powerful force that turns indifference into longing. Here's the paradox. When you are always available, when your presence is guaranteed, when you bend your world around them, you become invisible to their heart. Familiarity dulls appreciation. Constant access dilutes value. But when you step back, when you become scarce, when you stop giving them your energy so freely, suddenly, they feel the shift. Suddenly, they begin to notice the void. Think of it like water. When you have a glass of water sitting in front of you all day, you hardly think about it. But take it away on the hottest day of summer, and suddenly nothing else matters. That thirst becomes unbearable. That's what your presence is to them. While you were always there, they drank without thinking. But when you pull back, when your light is no longer guaranteed, they feel the thirst of your absence. Avoidants don't miss you because you remind them of your worth. They miss you because scarcity forces them to confront it. When you stop reaching out, when you no longer respond instantly, when you live your life fully without giving them constant updates, they begin to realize something they once denied. Your presence was never ordinary. It was rare. It was valuable. It was precious. This scarcity does not mean playing games. It does not mean manipulation. It means choosing yourself. It means living in such a way that your time, your energy, your love are treasures, not freebies. And treasures are always missed when they're gone. Here's the secret. Scarcity awakens contrast. Without you, their days feel emptier. Without you, their winds feel quieter. Without you, the air feels heavier. That contrast is what flips the switch inside their heart. That contrast is what makes them realize, I didn't just want them. I needed them. And once that thought enters their mind, it lingers. It grows. Because scarcity and value work together to amplify desire. The rarer something feels, the harder it is to ignore. The harder it is to replace. The harder it is to forget. So, if you want an avoidant to miss you, don't hand them your presence like water from a faucet. Become scarce, not in bitterness, but in power. Not because you're playing games, but because you've remembered your worth. And when you remember your worth, they will too. And in the quiet moments, when they look back and realize they no longer have the version of you that once gave freely, they will miss you with an intensity they never saw coming. Because the truth is simple. What is abundant is overlooked. But what is rare? What is rare is always missed. Trigger number 5, living fully without them. Picture this. While they retreat into the safety of distance, you rise into the beauty of life. You're out with friends, creating new memories. You're pursuing passions, walking into rooms with confidence, radiating energy that cannot be dimmed. You're building a life so rich that anyone who once knew you feels the ache of not being part of it. This is not about pretending. It's not about posting fake smiles on social media just to provoke jealousy. It's about truly living. Because when you fill your life with authentic joy, you stop orbiting around them, and that gravitational shift forces them to notice. The center of your world is no longer their approval. It is your growth, your dreams, your happiness. And here's the secret. People miss what they can no longer access. When you were waiting, when you were available at every call, they didn't have to miss you. You were already there. But when you redirect that energy into yourself, when you become the architect of your own joy, you no longer give them that access. And that is when longing takes root. Avoidance will scroll through your life from the shadows, and in every photo where your smile shines brighter, in every post where your eyes sparkle with freedom, in every story of your growth, they will feel the pang of absence. They will remember the fire you once brought into their world and realize they are no longer warmed by it. The most unforgettable people are not the ones who beg to stay, but the ones who keep walking forward with grace. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to perform your pain. You only need to live fully, boldly, beautifully. And in doing so, you become unforgettable. So stop waiting for them to come back before you breathe. Stop pausing your joy until they notice. Dance now. Laugh now. Love your life now. Because when you live so fully that the world feels your presence, they cannot help but feel your absence. And that is when missing you becomes not just a possibility, it becomes destiny. So remember, you don't make an avoidant miss you by force. You don't chase them into longing. You awaken longing by standing in your power, by giving space, by growing, by allowing memories to echo, by valuing yourself, and by living a life so vibrant, so unstoppable, that they cannot escape the shadow of your absence. Because love is not about clinging tighter. Sometimes, it is about letting go, so that what is real, what is true, what is unforgettable, finds its way back. And when they do miss you, and they will, it won't be because you begged. It will be because you reminded them, without a word, that you are irreplaceable. Thank you and goodbye note. Thank you for being here with me today, for opening your heart, and allowing these words to flow into your soul. If this message touched you, if it gave you strength, clarity, or even just a spark of hope, then remember, that spark was always inside you. I simply reminded you it was there. Never forget this. You are not defined by who walked away, but by how brightly you rise in their absence. You are rare, you are valuable, and you are unforgettable. If you found value in this, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because healing becomes even more powerful when it's passed forward. Until next time, take care of your heart, take care of your soul, and never stop walking toward the life you deserve. And always remember, you are worth missing. Goodbye for now, my friend. Stay strong, stay radiant, stay unforgettable.